Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. Welcome to an unfortunate but necessary other installment of Double Talk with Mike and Max. I hope everyone's doing well. It is great to be here again today, and we wanted to talk a little bit today on something different. Other podcasts we've talked about mentorship and ways of improving engagement in our company and in other companies. We wanted to touch a little bit today on something that's a little bit more current events, right? And I think you'd have to be living under a very large size rock or a small one, depending on your perspective, to not know that there have been a slew of recent tariffs and changes in the way the global economy is working. And so, one of the questions we've been asked by investors, by Wall Street analysts, by clients, even by our own employees is, with the recent tariffs and changes to our global economy, markets in flux, people are looking for what to do, how to do things differently. And we thought, we'd give you guys our, forgive the pun, double take on what needs to be done to get through it and secure near and let's call it longer term financial success. So this is going to be more of a conversation. So just, Mike, what are you seeing in the market and what are we hearing from our clients as inbound requests start coming in?
Thanks, Max. I just want to go and make sure that we got the Alorica swag. I'm rocking the Filipino multicolor next generation sweatshirt. Max has got the full North American wraparound vest. Uh, Per all of our 11 followers, let us know we like the best, if you don't mind. So what are clients asking? I mean, it's such fresh news, right? And whether you're a supporter of our current political climate or not, it really doesn't matter. As soon as the markets are affected, everybody's affected. So our clients have been asking, what does it mean to us as a business, which I think we can get into in a few seconds. And then the second thing is we've been trying to prepare a market message of what it could mean for them in terms of impact of their business and get ahead of it by in effect, helping right size their economics a little differently. But for the most part, it's been a little bit of turmoil. I mean, nobody expected, I don't think our clients expected as much change as quickly. And they also didn't expect that change to put on pause as quickly. And so it's a little bit of a jolt in the system. And I think they're figuring out now that they have to have a plan A, B, and C. And plan A is how do we get ready for what will be a sort of sizable, probably summer month and season before it gets into the holiday season, a sizable impact. And for that, they've been asking for what might it look like for them to right size their economics, geo shift their base of employees, and look for creative ways, I'll call them plays, that can be run to do things differently, either with AI or with technology.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Like we've heard a couple different examples across different sectors of people saying to us, if we think about our business today, it's the mix of technology and people, right? And we're able to move at pace on both those dimensions a lot faster than some internal teams are. Partially, that's a function of our kind of your and my focus on making things more easy to do business with, a faster, more digital approach. But I think also too comes from our years of experience across verticals and across geographies to move very quickly. Whereas, as we know, as much change as we want to make at Alorica, sometimes seismic change it takes time, and turning that battleship by degree is challenging. But if you call in for backup, and this is, I think, what we're seeing from several of our clients, I think things can move much faster. I mean, I think, in my mind, I don't know what you think about this, Mike, but I think the most important, kind of tools or attributes are to kind of try to think a little bit ahead of the problem, right? I think we've seen several of our most successful clients over the last 6 to 9 months really try to get ahead of, not only a selling season in the case of last year's holiday or open enrollment in case of this year or other things like that. I think some of our smartest clients are coming to us now saying, hey, in advance of the third, fourth quarter of this year, and even first quarter of 26, dare to think that far ahead. What can we start to do in terms of accelerating conversations that we're having on an already kind of streamlined basis? But one of the questions I would kind of pose you, Mike, is what are some things that are, let's call it outside of let's call it normal course, right? Which isn't just accelerate that order faster, do something differently, help us geo shift now. what are the kind of, let's call it, out of the box or clear blue sky white box, kind of whiteboard ideas that you think our clients should start thinking about, or our own people as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think. I mean, we'll look at the clients first before we talk our people, because I think the things we're doing to help our people think internally might just be a nice sort of narrative to the things that clients are faced with.
Yeah.
But I think at the core of most of our clients, there's sort of an operating model that runs their business, right? And I think AI was having an impact to look at that operating model differently. And there's a lot of disruption. Your operating model is the things that you do, the processes that link your entire journey together, either to build a product, to deliver a service, interact with your client. That is how you define your operating principles and how you run your business, and that drives costs and the things that you have to build in to produce whatever you're producing to sell into the marketplace. And that operating model gets disruption once in a while, right? It's either a third party comes in and sells,
Tariffs.
yeah, tariffs, yeah, third party being tariffs. Um, it's sell or a competitor sells something
Yeah.
that's the same and all of a sudden does it so differently in their expense base, their pricing. All of us, it happens to us in the market, right? Somebody's designed a pricing model that all of a sudden shocks the system because they found English in a geographic territory that we weren't in, and it just drove natural occurrence of the rest of the English language to be priced differently across the globe. But that operating model, I think, is that a tariff disruption? How do you think of trade and forex and all the things you do with the sort of monetary markets to keep yourself ahead of it? At the same time, you had this technology disruption, which is should we thinking about our business and our operating model differently? I think both of those are coming together aggressively to our clients, and somewhat of that to your point about the Titanic shift or ship trying to move, and the pace of which that does. I think what happens, those two things coming together, has now made really a massive call towards let's just start the planning now. Let's talk about things that can be done quarterly in smaller chunks and look at 3 to 4 quarters out and really do a hard look at are we running our business efficiently and are we doing all the right things to get ourselves, in effect, ready to protect ourselves against the shock of the system, whether it be the tariffs or AI or other things.
Yeah. I think that's really really well said, and I think the one thing to put a little kind of an exclamation point on your thoughts, I completely agree with, was that I think if anything, the recent news and kind of market volatility has done is, let's call it, expedite that planning, so that people might have said, maybe we have 3 to 6 months to make this plans, then we can execute them over the following 12 to 18 months. I think what a resounding number of people are feeling is, man, I thought I had 6 months. I got 30, 60 days tops. And so, I think that's a natural segue to the second part of what we're talking about is, how do we as a company think about being a better partner, being more engaged with our clients? I don't know what your thoughts are around.
Yeah, no, you and I have this discussion quite a bit, and it's both a bone of contention and frustration for us because we move fast. I think our chairman likes to remind us that we think differently and we probably move a little bit more expeditiously than a normal person, and so we have to maybe put it in neutral once in a while and make sure we're designing things so that people can catch up. Not that we're smart, more so that we're
Yeah. Or just for schizophrenic, perhaps.
paranoid. I would call it paranoid. Um, but I think we're we're a bit handicapped because we're not pushing our innovation internally to where I think it could be, and that pace is really adjustable every quarter. But I think our folks are really happy to do the things that they're assigned to do in the process as it is today. And your favorite phrase, we've always done it this way, therefore it can be. Um,
I just want to make a note, not to interject, but that is by far and away my least favorite phrase ever. But Mike, you're only doing that just to get my goat, which I
I do,
appreciate.
I do. It's just the things that we do. Well, we always done it that way, Max. I don't understand what you're talking about, but I think the frustrating part is it's sort of like a natural reoccurring like thought in your head as to sort of always asking, and it's like your son is 7 years old. It's why, why, and you can never answer enough why questions. And then when you finally try to get to a point, you end up saying, well, it's always been that way, and that's just the answer that can't be the answer, right? But I think if we could talk about the small pieces of the things that we could do that would change our ecosystem and try to be a bit innovative around thinking of how to approach a client differently, whether it's a sales approach or a play or a marketplace play or an operations play. We always say this incremental. We have this program called Ignite, which you could submit ideas into, but it's little incremental things like that that make such a big difference on an ecosystem that sits at 100,000 people today. That's powerful, right? And to me, I think part of what I would say in the internal side of our people, excuse me, is don't be afraid to ask why, and don't be afraid to make a recommendation. The answer of no is easy. Someone can always say no, but don't stop asking. It's what drives us as a different kind of company. It makes you feel like you're being rewarded because your input really was listened to and change mattered. I think that would be one place I'd spend time on right now.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. I think the thing that I find really, really cool about how we're approaching things is, the focus on doing something differently, right? Like it would be very easy for us to do the same things that we've always done. My favorite phrase, as you say, just because that's the way that we've always done them. But I think especially now, whereas, we've talked in the past about digital, kind of transformation and the seismic changes that are happening to our industry with it's called the greater adoption of AI and machine tools. I think perhaps another external factor to your point now is the increasing, let's call it volatility of the market. And so the need to come up with new ideas or different ways of doing things that might force people to, be uncomfortable for a period of time to approach a problem differently is probably no greater time than now to really start thinking about that in a proactive way. So to our own internal teams, kind of my focus and my directive, I think, and yours too, would be to approach it differently, right? Like look at this problem, see how can you be of more help to our clients, to our employees, to new clients, to clients that aren't even our customers today, in a way that we really haven't approached it other than a more traditional way in the past. And so that's how I would approach the problem. So listen, it's like that old Chinese curse, right? May you live in interesting times. We certainly are. So if not now, when? If not us, then who? So that's the way I would approach.
Who's on first? With
Yeah.
10 seconds. Um, no, so one spot I just carrying that into the way clients view us. You and I have had the luxury of spending some time with clients, um, and we always walk away both invigorated, but also they give us a little bit of a jab around where we could always improve, right? And there's no lack of improvement lists. But we always look for the tidbits of the things that we do well. And one of the places where I've always, especially, and you've been at many companies, and this is probably a fit for you as well. There's this balance between a client who views you as a strategic partner, or a valuable, trusted advisor. If you were strategic partner being large volume of spend, somebody I talk to, maybe get advice about. Trusted partner is embedded in my business, helps me think differently, helps me shape some solutions, maybe solves my problems, and likely is somebody who's there to help me, i.e., the
Hmm.
client, grow and get promoted. So, in both cases, the client. I think when you're talking about the client side, the important part is never to be only asking for an order, because when
Yeah.
you do that, you know how this is. If you get those phone calls, and then if every time you're asking, um, then that's nice. Always be closing, as an old movie used to say, if you're really old like me. But the reality is, you have to add value to be able to ask for an order, and that value add needs to be felt equally as you ask. And so, to me, I think part of the innovation piece is not necessarily just an internal side, but it's also bringing those innovations, ideas, not just a demo of a product. Literally, where would this product fit for you, and what problem are you trying to solve with the client or for the client? Then you have the right to say, if I solve this, what might it mean for Alorica? I think that's also helpful because we tend to think of internally, and to me, sometimes a little bit of market advice to our market and sellers out there that says the value add equation is one where equality matters, and bring more value to the table, and the rest will follow.
Mm. Mm. Well, and I think, it would be a mistake to wait for a client in this market to come to us and say, "Hey, could you bring me some value?" Right? It would be a mistake to wait, as opposed to saying, "Hey, let me be proactive, listen to what Mike and Max are saying, and try to come up with a way that I can create value, or come up with value with maybe just even my own client expertise, or even a production expertise for our account." So I think what we're saying makes a ton of sense. My dog is joining us for the first time on our podcast, so say hello. And to take advantage of the moment, right, and really act with urgency, because I think what you're hearing, I think everyone from Mike and I, is that it's better. I give you full credit for this, and it's better to make a decision, because you can always make another one, right? And so the advantage of not like waiting and seeing what happens in the market, let's wait 3 to 6 months to see how this shakes out. Unfortunately, given the number of clients we have and the worldwide focus that we have, we may be able to do things in the current moment in time for clients if we act quicker than if we wait, right? And so others are acting now, and so I think both for both our Loricans, and I think our clients, we're here for you, and we want to be your partner. And I think, as you said very well, the kind of rallying cry is, keep coming up with new ideas, be proactive. Our clients trust us, our employees trust us, and we want both our clients and our employees to know that we're here for them, and we're able to do crazy things in only the Alorica style that we know how to solve their problems. And so, it's an exciting time. It's an interesting time. I confess, I now no longer have CNBC in the background of my office. I tend to check every so couple of hours on how the markets are trading. But it's certainly an interesting time.
He's got that. Max is lying to you. Well, he's got the link right on his desktop where he gets the real time market updates as he's hedging away out there. No, I agree. When clients have uncertainty in their business, they do turn to the advisors and the trusted partners. They don't turn to vendors. They turn to vendors when there's nobody else in the ecosystem that have that status of trusted or advisor. And that's an opportunity for you to get to that level. But now I think is the time they are. And Max and I think you would agree, we put together a call to action plan for our markets teams to take advantage of the current scenario, where we might be a safe harbor trusted partner, in being that they could avoid future hires and help and use us to help drive business for them. So I think part of the pivot is we're more sales savvy. We've got geographic expansion going on in many areas that fit their economic profile better. And I think it's time for us to remind them of that. Make the calls that have to happen. I'm excited about the plays that we are running. We just got to double down and make sure that they're being run aggressively. But I think we've got a pretty good message in the market right now, and an opportunity in front of us. And the good news is we're set up with a good footprint that can be expanded pretty rapidly to succeed. So
yeah, and we're already seeing that. So it's
yeah,
good.
yeah. All right. Anything else, Mr. Max, on this episode of the third
episode? That's
of
right.
the 11 followers? Thank you to the additional one that we picked up in the last one. That was fantastic.
Yes, thank you for whoever you are. That's not one of our family members, wives, spouses, or parents. We really appreciate that. But no, I think that's all I've got for today. But listen, thank you guys for listening. This is great, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you in the next episode 4, where Max is going to dance.
Absolutely. No, Mike might join me. See ya.